far right, hard right, radical right, national conservatism, and populism. These terms have flooded the public debate, blurring distinctions between them. But what difference do they make on the European political scene? In Brussels, the members of the Patriots for Europe group met on the sidelines of the European summit for the first time. It's one of the three groups on the right side of the political spectrum in the European Parliament: the Europe of sovereign nations, the Patriots for Europe, and the European conservatives and reformists. Euronews has discussed with an expert how to classify them.
Europe of sovereign nations is the most extreme far-right group in the European Parliament and really contains a number of parties that can be considered as extreme right. Now that means that they don't clearly always respect parliamentary democracy. That means they have a number of authoritarian traits.
The Europe of sovereign nations is the smallest and most recent parliamentary group. The Alternative for Germany represents more than half of the group's members. The professor calls the group illiberal because of its rejection of the independence of justice, the rule of law, and individual freedoms. He also calls it nativist because of his strong opposition to immigration and the kind of distinctions it makes between immigrants and people born on the territory.
Well, the clearly illiberal and nativist parties can mostly be found in Europe of sovereign nations. They are clearly the group that contains most of these parties, but also some parties that are integrated in Patriots for Europe can also be considered illiberal. Yeah.
These two groups can also be classified as populists, according to the professor. Often confused with demagogy, populism refers to a binary vision of society that opposes an elite portrayed as corrupt and the people presented as homogeneous and pure. Finally, some parties of the European conservatives and reformists can be considered radical right. According to political scientists, the radical right refers to parties that have adopted two ideologies: nativism and authoritarianism, which promotes respect for authority and order.
Not all the parties within ECR at least can be considered as radical right. They are often rather nationalist and conservative parties, but some other ones can, on the other hand, be considered as radical right. So,
these three groups are generally nationalist, sovereignist, conservative, and Eurosceptic. However, while from an academic point of view all three can be classified as far right, most parties reject this label.